I was born in Key West. I grew up in Cleveland, Tennessee. Very small town, not a lot of things to do. Kids get into the wrong things. And when I was 18, I just left home because my stepdad was touching me, and I ended up having his daughter. And I didn't want that for her because I believed that if he was doing it to me, that this poor innocent child is going to pay too. And so I left home at 18. I ran back into one of my first loves. Thought that was going to change my life. Thought it was going to be best thing ever. 16 years of abuse and 10 years of shooting up more needles than most people I've seen here showed me that was not the case. Back in 2018, he had went and committed some burglaries. I didn't know anything about it. I got pinned on the charges. I spent 3 years in prison. I got out in 2021. I got out in 2020 on early behavior, actually. It was November the 2nd. I ran back into somebody else that had showed interest in me before and was a very godly man. And at that time when he showed interest in me before, I wasn't. And so I ended up hooking up with him because shockingly my friends took him in. And it was really weird. I didn't even know that they'd taken him in until I got home. And then we ended up getting married a year later on the anniversary of the day I got out of prison. I told myself I wanted to get sober because my sister has custody of my daughter. The stipulations were, you want to see her, you got to be sober. So I decided I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be clean. And it was a very long process. I did it, no rehab, no medicines, no stigmatisms. I did it on my own.
Cold turkey?
Cold turkey.
Wow.
My friends took me in. I've known most of them almost 20 years. Some of them are my high school friends. 2 of them are my exes. And they kept telling me, you can do this. They were my biggest cheerleaders. I was so broken. I didn't even love myself. My husband taught me to love myself. Tennessee was a very bad trap. My ex got out of prison right after I did. Couple months went by, he was knocking on my door. And I was like, I don't want to live here anymore either. I can't do this. The people, places, and things are haunting me, and I need to leave. So at the last minute, my mom had gotten her back pay from disability. I'd gotten my student loans. 2 of my roommates had gotten our student loans. We called Enterprise, booked a car the same day, packed what little bit we wanted to bring with us, stuck the rest in my mom's storage, and we just headed here. No plans, no nothing. We paid up a motel room for a month, and then I was just like, I want to get on these streets and see what people are out here living. Like, I want to help people. And that was a big thing for me. So I met up with some people at Ballard. I've started to listen to other people's stories out here on these streets. And I realized that we all have one thing in common, and that's that we're all broken. And so my roommates, even, they all come from all sorts of backgrounds. And me and my stepdad, these things had happened since I was 10 years old. So for 8 years, my childhood was just, and my mom knew. She walked in on it, let it happen. She told me I was worthless all the time, told me I never amount to anything. I'm actually fixing to graduate medical school at Ultimate Medical Academy in Clearwater. So are 2 of my roommates. One of them already has. And we're now in the process of working on a car. I just got a job at Taco Time. So things started to look up. And that's when I realized there's just more hope and not enough people looking for it. My story was a really messed up one. I went through so many abuses. My ex would keep cheating on me, so I'd cheat on him. And then those guys would beat me. And then at one point, I had thrown myself into prostitution because I just didn't care to live anymore. Every day was so numb. And so I just quit caring, and I just let everybody use me. And then when I learned how to love myself again, so many doors opened. It was a very life-changing experience. And I cannot name hardly anything I've done. I've not done heroin, and that's probably the only drug I've never touched. Everything else, I went through it. Acid, trips, Molly, ecstasy. I lost people that were really important to me. I lost my mom while I was in prison, and I never got to repair that. I lost my grandma right after. And then last year, I lost 3 of my best friends, all to overdoses. Last month, I lost another one of my best friends. And then a week ago, I almost lost one. He was driving down the road really drunk, and he rammed into an 18-wheeler. It severed his arm, but he made it out alive. And it brought me more hope. Like, what needs to be done to humanize the criticisms? Like, I see so many people judging, and nobody even knows where these people come from. It's really bothering. And that's why this means a lot to me, because nobody's ever heard my story, but I see the way people look at me. I'm not blind. And it's more painful than I think they realize sometimes. Like, we feel too. And even though I'm not on drugs, I know how those people feel. And it hurts. It hurts to be looked at like that. My ex, his biggest fear was what everybody thought of him. And it drowned him until today he's still drowning. I have to know that every day. And it is the hardest thing to wake up and look around and see that so many people are putting themselves at risk of death. These things kill. Overdoses are real. And the other day I was downtown, and for the first time I was actually scared here. I was downtown when that shooting happened at Pioneer Square last week. I was sitting at the train station, and I was talking to my roommate about how I wanted to get into a rehabilitation center and ask if I could be a counselor so that I could start reaching people. And the next thing I know, it was pow, pow, pow. A whole bunch of people running, and it was all over a drug deal gone bad. People are out here dying for this. I hope that this will save somebody. Is that good?
Well,
like, I'm really good at telling it in so short.
You told a lot in a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And of course there's many, many, many details and more to it.
It was almost like I was waiting to explode it out.
Well, when I came up, you said, I'll do it. Right.
Nobody's ever asked.
Oh,
I just get the usual.
Yeah.
I see it in stores.
Yeah.
Because I'm dirty and I'm on the streets. I've had several people ask me, do you need help getting clean? And I'm like, I've been clean for 6 years. Well, ma'am, it's a choice because I see the pain and I want to be a part of something bigger than myself.
You guys in a group came here in March, you said, and are living in a tent. Mm-hmm. And before this, have you ever been homeless before?
Oh, yeah. Me and my ex, we had moved in with my mom. We were trying to make amends. And while I was at work, she tried to sleep with my fiance, my ex. And then later on, while I was at work, they did. And so I went off and said very mean things. She kicked me out. I had nowhere to go. So we were homeless in Nashville. And that's the biggest city I had been homeless in at the time.
And that was your first time?
Yes, that was my first time. My second time, I had trusted my other ex, Cody, and he was everywhere. And he ended up getting a warrant. So I slept with some dudes to help him get out of the situation. We ended up in a truck driver's truck because that was his friend. And his friend was gonna keep us safe until he dropped us off in the middle of New York City. And that was how I ended up in the city. And then we were there for like months. Finally, somebody heard our story, realized that we needed help, and they paid for our Greyhound back home. My friends were not taking me in when I was with him. So I went back home only to be homeless again. And then I finally left him, and that was the last time I was homeless until now.
And how long ago was that?
That would be 2015, so exactly 10 years ago.
Okay, gotcha.
And that was the last time until now.
There's a lot of places to go here. So tell me about, do you have any siblings?
Yes. My oldest sister has my daughter.
So you mentioned that, yes.
Yes, and she is not my biggest fan. I'm allowed to video chat. I'm allowed to talk to my daughter, and that is, she's a good mom. I mean, my daughter has her own room. She has her own car. They got her that for her 16th birthday. So she has a better life than what I probably could have offered her. And then I have a little sister. I took her in about 3 years ago. She was in a really abusive relationship herself because my mom had died. She was a very spoiled kid, and she didn't know nothing about this kind of life. And when my mom died, she didn't know where to turn, so she turned to the streets. She ended up in a really abusive relationship. I moved her in, and she slept with my husband that I'm married to now. I let forgiveness hit because I know that that's what I have to do for me. So I forgave her. We do still talk, but I'm weary of bringing her around because I'm like, I don't think you need to be around my husband anymore.
Well, obviously trust.
Yeah, bad trust issues with me and my
Is
sisters.
broken, yeah.
But those are my only siblings.
And growing up, you guys all grew up together?
Yes.
Tell me about growing up together.
So when I was 10, my big sister tried to drown me in the backyard pool. When I was 11, she tried to kill me on the couch with a pillow. Me and my little sister, I raised her. Like, my mom was single mom, always working. I was the more responsible out of the three of us. Even though I was the middle child, I took care of my little sister, which is why that betrayal hurt so hard, because I raised her. My big sister and me, we never really were close. Like, it's always just been a jealousy thing with her, and she would dog me in every single way that she could. We all had 3 different dads. My dad was not a good person, and they held that against me because their dads were better. My sisters are also full-blooded Puerto Rican, where I'm Puerto Rican and my dad's Australian, so I have the whiter skin. They use that against me. I was always told, you're just the adopted mom. Mom just doesn't want to tell you. I heard that my whole life. When I was 15 and the state found out about my dad the first time, they took me.
Your stepdad?
Yes.
Gotcha.
And then my mom fought. She fought so hard, she actually got me back. And then he started doing it again. That was when I ended up pregnant. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore.
What was your mom's response?
I should have just aborted you so you wouldn't be a threat. And then she closed the door. And this was the day that she caught him while I was in the shower. And she just left me there.
Stephanie, I have 3 daughters. I'm so sorry that happened. I mean, as a dad, that there's a piece of, like, when my girls were born, I was like, oh yeah, I could see how I could kill somebody if they did something like that. Of course, that's the reaction. The response might be different, but
when
sorry.
I see my daughter, I tell myself, if I had kept custody and not made the wiser choice, I would have never let that happen to her.
Yeah.
But my mom did.
So there's a lot of severe trauma in there.
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
We all cope in all of our different ways. Illegal drugs, legal drugs is one of them.
My first cope was cutting.
Oh, yeah.
And
cut, yep.
I started covering them up with tattoos just to hide the memories. I have cuts all over. And then when I was 16, I started stealing my mom's sleeping pills, and I would just swallow them and let myself die, and then she'd bring me back to life just to put me through more hell. And then I tried to hang myself off of the balcony when I was 17. My friend came over and saw it, and her boyfriend saved me. I didn't want to be saved.
Yeah.
But I'm glad they did. And I'm still best friends with her. Like, that's my best friend, Lacey, and I wouldn't trade her for the world. She saved my soul a lot as a kid. And we met in an alternative school. We both have very traumatic childhoods. And Lacey and me, we clicked. Until today, that's the one person I go to. She is actually the pastor's wife of one of the leaders of Life Changers International in Knoxville. So when I need someone, they're the first person I call. If I'm weak and I know I might relapse, I call them. I'm like, hey, it's Life Changers time. I need y'all. And they're always there. And that was the one good thing I had in my childhood. I had friends. They all knew who my mom was. They all knew what she did. And the guy I was with for 16 years, I thought that he was going to be my savior. He was the first guy to ever stand up to my stepdad. And then he destroyed me even more. And I just decided I didn't want it anymore. Now, my husband now, he made the one mistake with my sister, but he changed right after that. He was like, oh my God, I really can't believe I hurt you like this. And ever since then, he's been my hardest partner. Like, everything I do, it's because he's standing beside me. Because I have cancer. So I'm like, and I have hepatitis C, so my body's just, everywhere. And most days, he's carrying me through sidewalks. Like, you can do this. You're so strong. And that forgiveness cleared every pain that I had. And if it wasn't for him most days, I don't know where I'd be.
And you guys are purposely, wow, I'll speak for you, mentioned that you are purposely living on the streets. And you touched on it a little bit. And I think this is an important piece of the judgment that people have that you are very aware of. Can you speak a little bit more on that?
One thing I've noticed is I've met a few people who are in the same situation as me. They're doing this by choice. Yet everybody looks at us like we're addicts who are messy and don't know how to live life. And what they're not realizing is each and every one of these people have a story. And just because somebody might look like they're on drugs, or just because you might want to believe that they're on drugs, does not make it factual. My roommate, he's skinny as a rail and can eat 13 buffets right in front of you, not gain a pound. And every day he gets asked if he needs rehab. And I'm like, he just has a high metabolism. I mean, I don't even know how they think I'm an addict. I'm like, I'm pretty well fit, chunky girl over here. I like food. Like, and it's the stigmatism. It's oh, you live in a tent, you're an addict. That's not always the case. And the ones that are, they could be someone who lost their home for no reason, someone whose bank account got frauded and they're still fighting fraud departments 10 years later, someone whose wife cheated, took his house, his car, and his kids. I mean, the same with the women. And it bothers me because people just assume. And then the worst part is they don't think it can happen to them. And I'm like, I think you might want to look at America a little bit closer. I think it happened to anybody. I mean, most people don't even know that several presidents were homeless before they even became presidents. Obama, for instance, which is why I kind of admire him. He was homeless and then he made something of himself. Everybody starts from scratch. Nobody knows anybody's story. And yet these days, nobody cares to listen to anybody's story. I feel like living out here willingly has taught me a lot about who I am.
Some people care.
Some people do care.
I would say
you're one of the very few rare people I've met who actually care to listen to somebody at all.
Yeah, and the audience that does watch this and does listen, I think, well, my hope, most of them care.
That makes probably 1 million people feel a little bit better, because I know a lot of people out here probably feel hopeless. I feel hopeless, and I'm not even on drugs. But I know what they feel like. And just knowing, it's hard. And then when you come here and you're seeing it, the worst part for me is the relapse. I'm looking and I'm relapsing in my brain, and it's the consistent fight of, I can't do that. I can't lose it all again. Yeah. I worked so hard to get here. So it's almost like not only am I willing because I want to understand, but I'm willing because it's reminding me where I came from. And I don't ever want to forget that, because all of that pain made me 30 times stronger. I take care of that whole household. Several of them are on checks and I'm figuring it out. And I do all of their bills. They all trust me immensely. But I had to see who I was, change who I was, and then prove who I was to get to that place. And I just feel like a lot of people don't get that opportunity. And I think that's wild.
And so I got a couple more questions before we wrap up.
Oh, you're okay.
I'm so curious about your plan of, you said you wanted to help people on the streets. Stephanie, how do you want to help people?
My husband and me were just talking about this walking from Ballard. We were noticing that there was a lot of people who don't have help getting to showers. They don't have help getting to food banks. They don't have help getting to shelters. They're walking. And most of the time, I've noticed there's bus tickets run out like that at all the assistant places. Bus tickets go so fast, I've noticed. And so we were just sitting there talking. I was like, man, what if we just bought a whole bunch of cheap buses and just got some people to do this for free and got somebody to help us with a grant for just gas? And he's like, man, that's smart. I was like, there's places to help, but these people are hurting their bodies and nobody wants to just drive them. And it boggled me. And I'm like, I see vans and stuff for sale on Facebook Marketplace all the time, cheap. And I'm like, here we are I'm about to start work. I still want to live in a tent. We're going to have extra money. And I'm like, why don't we just buy a bus? And that's the idea we have right now. Because I know sometimes I have a hard time with transportation.
Well, even you, like, how are you getting to work when you start working?
The bus.
The
So
bus.
thankfully for me, I have somebody helping me with the Norca card. But that's because I've been blessed. But not everybody is. And that's rough. So I want to be the difference. Somebody helped me when I least expected it. And I just went and told somebody my story at Ballard. And the dude with the Orca cards happened to be there. And he was like, I'm going to load you up. He said, that way you can get to work.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you don't got to do that. Nobody else is getting this much. And he's like, you need to get to work. He said, we need people out here trying to change. And that's when it hit me. That's exactly the point. What if these people could get showers and get jobs? Like, some people just judge you based on how you come in to put in an application. They don't realize these people just don't have the means. They need the money. You can't get a hotel room in most places without money. You can't buy a house without money. And the housing list is a 3-year wait, because they told that to me and my roommates. It's a 3-year wait right now for housing. What do?
How are you guys taking showers and all that stuff?
We have been blessed by Sophia Way, which I recommend to anybody because the caseworkers there for the women are amazing. My roommates that are men go to Porch Light.
Okay.
Those two places, those two organizations have helped us in so many ways. They've got us on the waiting list, but like I said, it's 3 years, but they got us on there. They told us how to put in food stamp applications. They helped us get our insurance cards, our dentist set up. They let us take showers there. We do laundry there. We eat breakfast and lunch there.
Right on.
They've offered us shelter there. I didn't want to take it because I wanted to be out here. I told my roommates to. I was like, girls, if you want to, go do that, go do that. And they're like, no, we want to be with you. And so they just made the decision, oh, we're going to be out here with you. And I'm lucky. I'm very lucky because I have all them. But I see a lot of people who don't got nobody out here.
Yeah, there are some people that, like you said, have nobody.
Nobody,
And
not even
it is
family.
hard. I think harder because we all need community and support and people in our lives. But
Yeah.
It's like I've met people that have nobody.
I saw that last night. We had went to go get Subway because my roommate's boyfriend had bought it for us. We went to go pick up Subway. There was a deaf guy at the bus stop, and he was telling us, he had like this little cardboard he was carrying around with his story. His mom and dad had kicked him out. He had nowhere to go. He was just looking for a Greyhound to get to his sister's. And I had $25 on me, so I gave him that. And then I asked him if he was hungry, because I do know what that is. I was like, and he was like, yeah, I gave him my sandwich and everything last night. I was like, I got all this food bags from Ballard. I don't even need this Subway. And I gave that to him, but then he started crying. And I was like, wow, it's just really hard to see that, because when that reaction happens that it means he's not really received that much help like he was hoping for.
Yeah, involuntary, just overflowing of emotion comes out.
It was a nice feeling. It was.
Good,
I didn't even need that sandwich that bad. It was probably fattening anyways.
Stephanie, one last question before we wrap up. Is there anything that you'd want the people of Seattle to know?
Never give up. Never give up. No matter if you feel like death is the only option, never give up. I didn't, and I don't regret that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. You open for a hug?
Yeah.
Hang in there. I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, for your willingness.